Resilient Jenkins Stephanie has violated the court order in less than 24 hours after the judge's ruling. She was told not to discuss Deshaun or Desiree on any social media sites, and Stephanie put this little tidbit up.
Drew Jenkins is already showing signs that he's not going to cooperate next Sunday for their visit. The judge wanted Deshaun to be able to hear Drew and his mother talking in a civil manner. That way he feels comfortable. I can guarantee that it's Stephanie behind this. Stephanie doesn't feel comfortable with Deshaun being with his mother. And as I said before, it's because she doesn't want the competition of another woman. I truly believe that. I want to sit here and say that I really wish that Drew would cooperate. That way the visits could go good for Deshaun, because this is really what it's about. But to be honest, this is probably the best thing that could happen to Desiree, because by them doing this, they are showing that they are alienating Deshaun from his mother, and that could very well work in Desiree's favor. I personally would want to see Deshaun reconcile with his mom and that relationship be mended. That way the transition goes smooth. And you would think that Drew would want Deshaun to have a relationship with his mother, because for her to have unsupervised visits straight off the bat, that means she has done absolutely everything to show the course that she is fit and very capable of taking care of Deshaun. As always, what do you guys think of him not answering the phone? They're supposed to be set up next Sunday for visitation, and the judge wanted Deshaun to be able to hear them having conversations civilly, and that has not happened.
It hadn't even been 24 hours. That's how long it took Stephanie Jenkins to break a direct court order. Not a misunderstanding, not a mistake. A court order, signed, filed, delivered. And what did she do? She ran straight to Facebook, behind her little subscriber paywall, and decided to talk about Deshaun and Desiree. Again, even after being told not to, even after it was written down in the court documents, even after Drew was given the responsibility to pass that same order on to her. Let's just say this clearly. Stephanie is playing with fire. The court order. The court ruled that Desiree was allowed weekly visits with her son Deshaun. This wasn't just a simple verbal agreement. It was written, filed, and made crystal clear in legal documents. And with that came a strict order. Stephanie was not to talk about Deshaun or Desiree online. Not on Facebook, not a passing comment, not even vaguely in a post. No expectations, no wiggle room. The order couldn't have been clear. No posts, no comments, no social media talk, and absolutely no sharing of private court matters. But what did Stephanie do? She ignored it, flat out. Not even a full 24 hours had passed. The ink on the documents hadn't even dried when she ran to her Facebook subscriber-only group and typed out a post that directly referenced the case and both Deshaun and Desiree. And let's be honest, that wasn't a moment of confusion. That wasn't some subtle or accidental mention. That was deliberate. This was intentional. Stephanie knew exactly what she was doing. She made a conscious decision to go against a court's instruction because she believed her version of the story needed to be heard and paid for. And in doing that, she proved that court orders mean nothing to her when there is an audience and a paycheck involved. What did she post? Stephanie began to post with a soft tone saying, "Thank you for all the prayers, everyone. Later update. I am not sure how much I am legally allowed to share, especially because I wasn't able to attend court alongside you." From the first sentence, Stephanie tries to soften the blow. It sounds like she's just updating her followers, being cautious, maybe even respectful of the court. But that's the trick. She starts off sounding humble and unsure, just a concerned stepmom sharing a little emotional update. But let's not be fooled. Right after that sentence, she dives straight into the very thing court told her not to do, publicly talking about Deshaun and Desiree. She claims Deshaun now has the power to decide if he wants a relationship with his biological mother. She makes it sound like he's in the driver's seat, like it's a personal choice, and she's just lovingly stepping aside to let him decide. But that's not what the court said. The court didn't give Deshaun that decision. They ruled that Desiree would have weekly visits so she could rebuild a relationship with her son and work towards sharing custody. This isn't a casual, see how he feels about it situation. It's a legal process meant to restore what was taken from Desiree for years. Stephanie didn't just share her feelings. She rewrote the court's decision in her own words, creating a version where Deshaun picks her or his mom, as if they were competing. She knows exactly what she's doing, planting seeds in Deshaun's mind that make it feel like choosing his real mom would mean rejecting Stephanie. That's not support. That's subtle emotional pressure. And when she says she'll be there, regardless of what happens, it's less about encouragement and more about guilt tripping. It's clear Stephanie twisted the facts to serve her narrative. And worse, she did it publicly. Parental alienation in plain sight. Stephanie's entire post was an emotional play. She talks about how Deshaun once called her mommy, how she's always been there for him, how she hopes Desiree's intentions are pure.
Resilient Jenkins Stephanie has violated the court order in less than 24 hours after the judge's ruling. She was told not to discuss Deshaun or Desiree on any social media sites, and Stephanie put this little tidbit up. It doesn't matter. She violated the order. I don't know if Stephanie does not care or Stephanie does not understand, but Drew is now in contempt of court with the violation of this order. Y'all.
It sounds sweet at first, right? Almost like a caring stepmom simply opening up her heart. But when you stop and really look at the wording, it becomes clear that Stephanie isn't just telling a story. She's rewriting history. She says she hopes Desiree has good intentions, but why phrase it like that? As if Desiree, the boy's real mother, is just some outsider trying to sneak in. That's not how any of this works. Desiree is Deshaun's biological mother. The only reason she hasn't been part of his life is because she was blocked by Drew, who admitted in court that he stopped Desiree from having any contact with her child. He denied her calls, ignored messages, and flat out cut her off. And Stephanie stood right beside him while it all happened. So now for Stephanie to turn around and say Desiree had no involvement for years, that's not just misleading, it's a lie by omission. She knows why Desiree was absent. She helped make it happen. But now she's spinning it into a tale where she looks like the devoted mother figure while painting Desiree as someone who just popped out of nowhere. That's not just wrong, that's dangerous. Because Deshaun is hearing this. And what is he supposed to believe? When Stephanie tells him his mom just wasn't around and that she's been the one holding it all together, she's not giving him the full truth. She's feeding him a version of events where he might grow up resenting the woman who gave birth to him, all while seeing Stephanie as the one who never left. That's not love, that's manipulation. She's just not controlling the narrative for social media. She's planting ideas in a child's mind that twist how he sees his own mother. And that kind of emotional control, that's brainwashing, profiting off a violation. This post wasn't just breach of court orders, it was monetized. She didn't post this on her personal timeline. She posted it behind a paywall. She earned money by doing the very thing she was told not to do. This makes it worse. She's not just ignoring the law, she's making money by breaking it.
I had one meeting between my posts and this happened. So I just don't, she doesn't get it. It hasn't even been 24 hours. And she's violating what the judge said, and she's all wrong about what the judge said. So, I don't know. This is just going to be how it goes, which is, again, it's good for Desiree, but she just doesn't get it. And I don't understand. I feel like she should have been involved in the court system enough to know that this is not a good look.
And what about Drew? Now let's talk about Drew. He was in court. He sat there, had everything firsthand, and received the official court order. That order clearly told him Stephanie was not to speak about Desiree or Deshaun online under any condition, and it became Drew's job to pass the order on to Stephanie and make sure she understood the seriousness of it.
Drew Jenkins is already showing signs that he's not going to cooperate next Sunday for their visit. The judge wanted Deshaun to be able to hear Drew and his mother talking in a civil manner. That way he feels comfortable. I can guarantee that it's Stephanie behind this. Stephanie doesn't feel comfortable with Deshaun being with his mother. And as I said before, it's because she doesn't want the competition of another woman. I truly believe that. I want to sit here and say that I really wish that Drew would cooperate. That way the visits could go good for Deshaun, because this is really what it's about. But to be honest, this is probably the best thing that could happen to Desiree, because by them doing this, they are showing that they are alienating Deshaun from his mother, and that could very well work in Desiree's favor. I personally would want to see Deshaun reconcile with his mom and that relationship be mended. That way the transition goes smooth. And you would think that Drew would want Deshaun to have a relationship with his mother. Because for her to have unsupervised visits straight off the bat, that means she has done absolutely everything to show the courts that she is fit and very capable of taking care of Deshaun. As always, what do you guys think of him not answering the phone? They're supposed to be set up next Sunday for visitation. And the judge wanted Deshaun to be able to hear them having conversations civilly, and that has not happened.
So the big question is, why did she still post? Was it that Drew didn't tell her at all? If so, that would put him in direct violation of court expectations. He had one job, deliver the message. Failing to do so makes him legally responsible. Or maybe he did tell her, and she just chose to ignore it. That's even worse in some ways, because it shows the willful disregard for legal boundaries. It means Stephanie had the rules and chose to break them anyway. Either scenario puts them both in trouble. Drew is either negligent or complicit. Stephanie is either uninformed or defiant. There is no winning angle in this. Stephanie even tried to cover herself by saying in the post, "I don't know what I'm legally allowed to share since I wasn't in court." That might sound like an honest disclaimer, but really, it's calculated. She's not confused. She's laying the groundwork for a defense. She wants the option to say, "Well, I didn't know," if the court questions her. But let's be clear, not being in court doesn't protect you from court orders, especially when the person you live with was there, had it all, and was told to pass it on. This isn't a harmless slip-up. It's a legal mess in the making. And the longer they keep dancing around responsibility, the more damaging it becomes for their case and for Deshaun. She's setting up a defense so if she's called out, she can say, "I didn't know." But the law doesn't work like that. Ignorance isn't a defense, especially when your partner was given the legal duty to inform you. How this could backfire. Stephanie thinks she's being clever, but the truth is, her actions are digging a legal and emotional hole that might be impossible to climb out of. Every single time she breaks the court order, she's handing the court another reason to act. And if it continues, the consequences won't be light. We are talking serious legal action, like banning Stephanie completely from being around Deshaun. Family courts do not play when it comes to parental alienation and emotional manipulation, especially when a child is caught in the middle. So what happens next if she doesn't stop? Would Stephanie be forced to move out of their shared living space? Would Drew and Deshaun have to create distance from her just to stay compliant? Or in the most extreme but possible case, could the court hand full custody to Desiree? But let's be honest, if Stephanie keeps violating the order, she's not just damaging herself, she's actively weakening Drew's custody case too. Her posts, her words, her choices, the receipts, and family judges take those receipts seriously. What's worse is the emotional mess she's leaving behind. Deshaun is the one who is going to suffer most. Stephanie may think she's fighting for him, but what she's really doing is making things harder, not just for herself, but for everyone around her. And when the dust settles, it might be too late to fix it. Who is really looking out for Deshaun? Let's be real. If Stephanie truly cared about Deshaun's best interests, she would support his court-ordered visits with his mother without interfering or planting guilt. Stop feeding him confusing stories that would make him feel torn between two people he should be able to love freely. Give him a calm, steady home where he can just be a kid. But instead, this child is stuck in a cramped motel room shared with several people with no privacy and no room to grow. He doesn't get to go on field trips like other kids of his age. Those few moments of freedom and joy, they're taken away too. He's surrounded by constant emotional pressure. And worst of all, his life is being turned into content. Stories shared behind paywalls where strangers get to weigh in while he's figuring out what's even going on. So again, who is that really helping? It's not Deshaun, that's for sure. Deshaun deserves better. At the center of all this mess is a child, a little boy who didn't ask for this, a boy who is just trying to make sense of the world around him, who his family is, who to trust, and what love is supposed to feel like. He didn't ask for a stepmom who writes emotional Facebook essays behind a paywall, building a picture-perfect version of herself for strangers while leaving him in confusion. He didn't ask for parents who are more focused on controlling the narrative than giving him peace. He didn't ask for loyalty tests or feel like he's betraying one parent by simply connecting with the other. He didn't ask to be caught in the middle of adult insecurities, ego battles, or hidden agendas. He just wants to be loved, safe, and heard. He wants to play, to laugh, to be hugged without strings attached, to be a kid. And what's happening right now? That's not love, that's not safety, and that's not peace. It's control, it's manipulation, it's chaos dressed up as parenting.
Deshaun is not allowed to go on school field trips. Not only are those kids, the Resilient Jenkins kids, not taken anywhere, they still haven't even gone to Urban Air for all of their 3 birthdays. He isn't allowed to go on school field trips. I guess a couple weeks ago he had to miss out on his class all going to the zoo. And I think that the same goes for her girls. I'm not sure because it just came up because of court. And apparently Stephanie is also the one who gets all of the correspondence from the school. I was in the live with Desiree and a couple other people, the advocate who she was talking to yesterday, and they were going over all of the things that came out in court. And we've all known how sad it is that there's these kids, 7 people locked up in a 1-bedroom motel room, and the only time they get to go outside is when they're playing in the grass patch behind the motel that's probably riddled with needles and bottles and broken glass. But they can't even go on school trips. Like, that is so sad. A lot of people talk about how poorly these kids are treated. They need new clothes. All Stephanie keeps buying is Apple Watches for Drew, $70 to $100 games, and then gets a $20 toy for 5 kids to share. It's unimaginable to me. I have a daughter and she goes to a trampoline park several times a week. We have a membership to Chuck E. Cheese, Legoland, the zoo. She goes to yesterday she went to Chuck E. Cheese, Baby Hop, and then our community pool. And that's just like a random Thursday for her because everything that I have goes to my child. And I struggle, like, I wear tank tops from Walmart so that she can have cute clothes and princess dresses and everything. That was one of the really sad things for me to realize yesterday. And I'm glad that Deshaun is going to be starting to see his mom, Desiree, starting next Sunday, I think the 7th. They said that it's going to be for 2-hour increments. But if he, tires easily, they said, basically isn't comfortable, that they can end it early. Or on the other hand, if he's comfortable and having fun, they can extend it. And so, eventually even to the point of if he wanted to spend the night, he could spend the night. The problem, I think, is going to be with Stephanie and therefore Drew allowing it to happen, because I think it's clear from everything that's come out that Desiree and Drew were somewhat co-parenting pretty well up until from 2019 or 20 till 2022 when Stephanie came into the picture and he just ghosted her, and that's when the parental alienation started. And so I think that she's going to do whatever she can to make Deshaun brainwashed into thinking that, his mom is horrible like they've been doing, and then also try to convince him to respond negatively to her, say that you're not having fun, say you want to come home. Hopefully this doesn't work and he's able to be successfully reunited with his mom. But Stephanie does not want to have Drew's baby mamas involved. And Arlita hasn't, been involved with Drew for a long time, it sounds like. And she doesn't want Desiree to be either. So I think that if it gets to the point where they're actually having to co-parent with Desiree for Deshaun, I think that Stephanie would really try to convince Drew, since it sounds like she has actually a lot of power in this dynamic, and she obviously is the one who makes their income and everything. I think she would try to estrange Drew then from his son. And I hope that he wouldn't allow that to happen. I'm not sure, because I've seen what women can do to men who let them manipulate them in these ways about their kids. So I don't see them actually co-parenting. I think they're going to keep trying to not do what the courts are saying and estrange their relationship from his mom. And then if that doesn't work, she'll probably try to move them away and probably have more kids to fill the spot that was missing, basically, for their benefits and their content and all of that. I hope that's not what happens, but that's what I'm speculating will probably happen.
Final thoughts. Stephanie violated a court order. That's not just a small mistake or an oops moment. It's serious. It shows a complete disregard for legal boundaries and for what's best for the child involved. She tried to hide it behind emotional storytelling, playing the doting stepmom, writing flowery posts to pull on heartstrings, and then she put it all behind a paywall. So not only did she break the law, she turned that violation into profit. That's not protective. That's performative. And with every post she writes, every subtle dig, every public emotional plea, she's handing Desiree and her legal team a pile of evidence. The kind of evidence that can and will be used against her and Drew in court. Every word Stephanie writes is another piece of the puzzle, proving that This isn't about what's best for Deshaun. It's about control, attention, and image. But the real tragedy here isn't Stephanie's growing legal mess or Drew's quiet compliance. The one who's truly suffering through all this is Deshaun. He's the one stuck in the crossfire. He's the one absorbing the stress, the confusion, the divided loyalties. He's the one paying the price for their grown-up choices. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Stephanie's crossed a line that can't be uncrossed? Is Drew silently sabotaging his own case by letting it happen? And most importantly, how do you think this ends for Deshaun? Like and subscribe to stay updated, because this case, it's unraveling by the day and it's far from over.